Good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to be here. I think we'll try to take about 30 minutes together to share a few concepts, and then 5 or 10 minutes for you to ask any questions towards the end, if that works for you. My name is Paul Hunter. I work at a business school in Switzerland called IMD, which you may or may not have heard of. What I want to do really in the next 30 minutes is to take you through 4 things. Tell you very, very quickly who IMD is, what is our concept of digital learning, show you some examples of what that digital learning looks like, and then share with you what we have discovered, is what we believe we've discovered are the 7 secrets of making digital learning really impactful. So that's what we'll try and do in the next 30 minutes or so. In terms of who IMD is, this is a picture of our campus in Switzerland. It's a beautiful part of the world. If you've never been, I can certainly recommend it. It looks like this in the autumn, so it's quite spectacular. I know Madrid is a beautiful place too, but we certainly do like our countryside here. We have around about 7,000 students per year who come through our campus. We're focused on executive education. That's really 100% of what we do. We try to offer what we call Swiss excellence with a global perspective. So if I was doing things properly, we really would have started at 1:45 today to be Swiss timing, but I think I've kind of got into Spanish timing already. And then we try to be flexible, we try to be customized, and we try to make sure that we have an impact. That's really what we're trying to garner, is a meaningful impact on our learners. The values that we have, 3 values, is how can we be open, how can we be collaborative, and how can we be pioneering. And if you're interested in rankings, we tend to do pretty well in the rankings. In fact, last week, the Financial Times had just ranked us for the 6th year running #1 in the world in open programs. So that's just a little bit about who we are and what we do. So what about digital learning at IMD? What does that look like? We insert digital learning into an overarching structure that we call the corporate learning network. So companies pay to be part of the corporate learning network, and it gives them access to a different set of services. And the ones that we're focusing on today is what we call our global leadership in the cloud programs. This is the digital learning that we offer. They're designed by our faculty. Every participant has a coach to help them through that journey. We'll go into that a little bit in detail. Each program is 8 weeks long, and you get a certificate from IMD at the end of the program if you're successful, just in the same way as you would get a certificate from a face-to-face program. So we make no certification distinction between whether you've been to a face-to-face program or an online program. They have equal value for us. So what does the journey look like for a participant? What are they doing on a weekly basis? So essentially we have a virtual cycle of 4 different things. First of all, some knowledge dissemination. I would say globally, we're much less in the business of knowledge dissemination, and we're much more in the business of learning application. But before you do learning application, there needs to be a little bit of knowledge dissemination. So first of all, we have nice videos, readings, and case studies to help people learn. So they're essentially getting familiar with the concept. Then there's an interaction piece, and interaction happens in 3 different ways. We have group interaction, and group interaction is primarily giving students an opportunity to grapple with the concept. So if this is our strategic thinking program, and we've explained to you a model on strategic thinking, here is a small group of 3 or 4 or 5 people. We're going to ask you to apply that strategic thinking model to a particular situation. We're not especially interested in your answer. So if you're applying the strategic model to the Wall Street Journal and you say, this is what we think the Wall Street Journal should do, we're less interested in your answer. We're more interested in giving you an opportunity to grapple with the concept. And the reason why that's so important is because we're going to expect you to apply that concept to your situation at the end of this week. So group work is all about applying the concept and grappling with the concept. Buddy assignments, so we pair people off. Buddy assignments is all about disclosure. Buddy assignment is me telling you a challenge that I have in my professional context based on the concept that we've just shown you. And normally, as my buddy, you will reciprocate. and we will start and build a bond together. We will start to have a connection. That horizontal connection and that horizontal interaction is very important for keeping people engaged throughout the whole process. And then cohort discussions you're probably familiar with. This is where we have an opportunity to leverage the wisdom of the crowd, the wisdom of the group, to see what other insights that we might have. So some learning, some interaction, then we're moving straight into application. So let me try to make this very concrete for you. Let's imagine that you're on a program that we're calling Learning Leadership, to go through the basic principles of leadership. And this week is Conflict Management Week. Excuse me. This week is Conflict Management Week. So you've watched some videos of one of our professors explaining to you some of the principles around conflict management. It won't just be a toolkit, here are 5 things that you should do to manage a conflict, but it will already be some engaging questions. If a conflict is happening between you and some other person, what might be the reasons for that? Is it really because that other person is a terrible person? Or what is it that you're bringing to the party that might actually provoke a conflict with that other person? What baggage are you bringing with you into the room that might actually be a source of tension and maybe the source of the conflict? So some videos to give you some thinking about conflict management. In your group work, you've watched managers have a conflict or a difficult conversation with one of their team members. And as a group, you're asking yourselves the question, what do we think this manager did really well? What do we think this manager didn't do so well? What can we learn from this conflict interaction that we've just been watching? The application part is this week, that difficult conversation that you've been putting off for 3 months or 6 months or in some occasions 5 years, guess what? This week, that difficult conversation is happening. So we will give you a template to help you prepare for that conversation, but more importantly, we'll give you a template to allow you to debrief that conversation so that you can share with your coach, and this is where we get to the improving part, you can share with your coach how that conversation went. The coach is there as a catalyst for learning transfer. The coach is not there as a policeman or a policewoman. The coach is not there to say, you've completed 60% or you've watched these 3 videos, oh, don't forget you have to read that book chapter. That's not our concept. We're trying to make our learners autonomous. We try to make them self-manage the activities that they have to do, but your coach is there to give you feedback on how good or bad a job you've done in applying that concept to your situation right now this week. As I mentioned before, we're less about knowledge dissemination, we're more about learning application. We're interested in the impact that this is having on you, on your team, on your business right now this week. And that's what the coach is there to do. What you're doing in week 4 builds on what you did in week 3, which builds on what you did in week 2, etc., etc., etc. So we run these programs in a range of flavors. We have 12 programs right now, and I can take you through those in a moment. Less important, I guess, is for you to know the portfolio. More important is to give you a flavor of what those programs look like. So I'm going to show you an excerpt, a little video from one of those programs, and I want you to ask yourself this question. Actually, I'll maybe get you to discuss with your neighbor very briefly. From a pedagogical point of view, what makes this a successful video? What makes this an engaging video? So I'm going to show you a clip from one of our programs called Being Innovative. With a bit of luck, this will open up for me. So please ask a question from your point of view. Oops. Hold on. I think I may need to slide this across. There we go. Oh, hang on. Bear with me. I think that's just about right. We may have lost a little bit of screen, but we'll do our best. Okay. What makes this effective from a learning point of view?
I mentioned there were 3 principles to think about. The first was more ideas are better than fewer. The second is more minds are better than fewer. Pretty much talked about that. The third one, however, is quite important, and we need to emphasize it, and that is more different minds are better than more of the same. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's go back to 1912, the race to discover the South Pole. At that point in time, the South Pole is the last, arguably the last unexplored spot on the planet, okay? All we know about the South Pole is it's distant, cold, dark. Much like the future that we're all facing, uncertain. There's two teams, side by side, literally project teams in parallel who are racing to the pole. One team is led by Robert Scott, captain in Her Majesty's Royal Navy, early 20th century. That may in fact be the biggest brand in the world. He's got a large group, he's resource rich and ready to go. The other team is led by a failed medical student from Norway, Roald Amundsen. He has a much smaller team, far fewer resources, and he's also ready to go. It's roughly 3,000 kilometers from base camp to the pole and back. It's frigid cold. It's going to be dark for much of the race, and we're going through the unknown. We have no idea whether there are mountains there or not. Scott has more resources, but he's spoken to fewer people. Amundsen has fewer resources, but he's spoken to more and more different people. Scott is outfitted by Burberry. Amundsen is outfitted by Greenlander Eskimos. Now, the Greenland is far away from the South Pole, but the Greenlanders live in cold, forbidding climates. And Amundsen paid a lot of attention to what they wore and what they ate. So Amundsen's team made it to the South Pole 6 weeks before the better equipped Scott team. Amundsen's team gained weight on their return to base camp after 3,000 miles of going through the frigid cold and taxing conditions. Scott's team never returned. They died of starvation and exposure. The difference between life and death in this case was a difference between who the team spoke to before they went. Amundsen spoke to Eskimos who had lived in the cold, forbidding, unknown. Scott spoke to people who lived in London, who were comfortable in the world around a sophisticated urban area. Scott brought horses to the South Pole when dogs were more appropriate. Who are you talking to? That's the real question. Often, more different minds are better than more of the same, because it's only by consulting different minds that you'll be able to get an edge in thinking about the world around you.
All right, here's what I'd like you to do. With your neighbor, 2 minutes discussion, 2 questions. Question number 1, one thing that you have retained from this video, one learning piece that you've remembered. And number 2, what in your opinion makes this, from a pedagogical point of view, an effective video? Okay, 2 minutes discussion with your neighbor, and we'll debrief that in a minute. Okay?
Mirror screen standing.
I'm not going to be showing any other videos now, so I think we're okay.
You have only one video, no?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to show it, so I think we're okay. But thank you. Would you by any chance have any chalk? that I can write on the board? No, 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 for the board, for the board. Thank you. It's a little bit old world, but that's okay. Thank you. Okay, so let's bring that discussion together. All right. Hello. Okay, great, thank you. So, one thing you've remembered, one thing you think you remember from that video, a volunteer, something you think you might remember from that video. If I have no volunteers, I'm going to have to jump on people by the color of their shirt. Yes, please. Pardon? What sucks? Burberry sucks. Okay, that's all right. That's what, I don't know if we have a roving microphone, do we, that we can pick up these answers? Maybe not. That's okay. You just have to shout loudly. So one good learning point: Burberry sucks. All right. The other one linked with that is never believe anybody who lives in London. That's another one you could add into the Burberry one. Other learning points, things that you've remembered. Yes?
The successful leader knows who to consult.
A successful leader knows who to consult. Excellent point. Thank you very much. Yep?
Talk to people with different point of view than you have.
Talk to people who've got a different point of view than you have. Absolutely. Other things?
Talk to the actual experts instead of people who say they are experts.
Okay, so to talk to people who really know what they're talking about. Okay? One more? Innovation comes from diversity of opinion. Great. So lots of very nice learning points that come out from a 3-minute video. Fabulous. What makes this work well from a pedagogical point of view?
Visual variety.
Say a little bit more.
There was some change in what you were focusing on, and it was thoughtfully done relative to what was said.
Okay, so visual variety, really important. Who is my biggest competitor in the field of e-learning? Who do you think is my biggest competitor? Facebook is certainly one. My biggest competitor in e-learning is email. Okay? Here's my nightmare scenario. We spend lots of time and energy creating funky videos and nice online programs, and then busy executive has laptop here, second screen here, busy doing my emails with this other video kind of running in the background, and let's see what happens. I know when that happens, I'm certainly not remembering much of the video. I'm definitely not going to retain the learning points, and there's no chance of me applying it. Okay? I need people to down tools for 3 minutes and say, this video is sufficiently engaging that I'm just going to stop my emails for 3 minutes and watch this video. Okay, we saw in an earlier presentation this morning about the ideal length of video. So most of our videos are 3 or 4 minutes long because we think we have a fighting chance of capturing your attention for 3 or 4 minutes. We don't have much of a chance of capturing your attention for 40. So really important that we're getting people to focus on the video because that's how we're increasing our chances of retention and that's how we're increasing our chances of application. So visual variety, very important. Was that a hand? Yep.
So I was going to add that this effective use of storytelling really helps to keep your attention, connect, I would say, create more value in the concepts that are being presented.
Fabulous. Everybody loves a story, and everybody really loves a true story. So if you have an opportunity to illustrate a learning point by using a true story, this is why some films in the cinema are so much more popular than others, because if you have a film that's based on a true story, everybody loves that. That allows you to make an emotional connection. It allows you to say, what if I was in that situation myself? So storytelling really important, true stories even better. There was a hand right at the back a moment ago. Yep?
I think with the storytelling, putting like the lyrics or context.
Yes? So putting the theory into context. Okay, really important. Theory into context. So theory into context. All right, thank you. There was a hand over here.
Yeah, and I also like the balance between these visualizations, pictures, and talking human to me, because I still have eye contact with the author.
So balance is really important. Eye contact is really important. So you feel like the person is talking to you. Really important. Okay, there was a few other hands I saw. Yep.
No wall of text through like slides or anything.
Okay, targeted text. Did you see the way that we presented the text? Okay, was it in straight lines? Okay, the text kind of came all wibbly wobbly all over the place. So you mentally, your brain had to go to read this. That's another way of keeping you engaged. Yep, I'll come to you in 2 seconds. Yep.
It started and closed with the same message line. So that's the main point of the video.
Yeah. More different minds are better than more of the same. Bookended. Really important, so you remember that. And also, what else happened at the end? Can you remember what else happened at the end? Just before we got to more different minds are better than who are the same, or maybe just after. Anybody remember what happened right at the end? Pardon? Recap. There was a recap, yeah, and there was something else.
He asked a question about who are you talking to or not talking to.
Brilliant. He asked a question. The real question here is, who are you talking to? So if you think back to the little circle that I showed you, we're already in this video starting to plant the seed of application. Hey, this is a nice video. It's great that you understand the learning point, but learner, please put your ears up now. I'm asking you a question. Who are you talking to? And guess what? Your individual assignment this week is to go and talk to 5 people that normally you don't talk to see if you might learn something about the customer experience in your organization. So straight through application from the learning. Yep. I haven't forgotten you. I'm coming back to you. Yes?
It's useful too that he's got a counterintuitive story.
Yes?
Because you learn a lot more from a counterintuitive story than an obvious one.
Yeah. Counterintuitive is good. Crisis is good. The odds are stacked against me is good. Those are the kind of stories that people love. Coming back to you now.
I think for me, the content didn't overlap with a lot that I knew, so it was pretty original content for me.
Okay.
If it overlapped with other stories that I knew, then I would be less.
So it was original or it was fresh? Okay, great. Anything else that you liked, that you thought made this work from a pedagogical point of view?
I was slightly extended pedagogy in the sense that even for online learning, we ought to force people to talk to each other in small cohorts and teams.
Yeah, really important. So that horizontal interaction piece is super important. If it's just me on my own with my laptop in my bedroom, probably not fabulous. Okay, so that horizontal interaction part is really important. Okay, any other burning ones before we move on? Last one?
They don't give you the actual concept they want to give you until just the very end.
Yeah, okay, so we keep you, let's say that when we drop the concept is towards the end. When you drop it is very important. Sorry, concept I should be saying. I'm sorry, concept. One other thing that's really important from a visual point of view, and this is actually important in videos in general, is the ability to do a comparison. So we had this team over here, team A, and they did this, and then you probably saw the video go like this, and then we had this team B over here, and they did that. That's very effective from a visual point of view, because you can't possibly miss that we're talking about 2 different things. You can do A, or you can go over here and you can do B. Really important that you allow people to compare and contrast for themselves, so then they can lead to their own conclusions. Okay, let's finish off, because I've just got a signal that we have to be careful about time. Let's finish off with the 7 secrets of high-impact digital learning, some of which we've already talked on when we looked at the video. First one is really important. Start at the end. Make sure that you have super clear learning objectives for this program, for this unit, for this week, for this activity. You need to deploy what you might call classic backwards learning design. So what are our objectives? How are we going to measure them? Okay, now let's design the content. Sometimes you will have faculty members who will come and say, I've got fabulous content, let's turn this into a digital extravaganza. That's nice, but it's the wrong way around. We need to say, okay, what do we want people to be able to do by the end of this week? How are we actually going to measure that in a meaningful way? Okay, now I'm in a place to create the content which will allow me to measure, which will deliver on the objectives. So start at the end with the learning objectives. Secondly, certainly in our world, so this might be slightly controversial, so feel free to throw bricks at me when we do the Q&A in a moment. Certainly in our world, we need to treat executives like executives. These are busy folk who've got a million things to do, and I'm asking them to take another 4 or 5 hours out of a busy day. We need to treat them like a responsible adult. Most of the executives that I work with are not in a situation where they have 2 clearly defined choices. Should I do A? Should I do B? They don't live in a world of black and white. They live in a world of grey. And what we want them to do is to be able to make discernible choices based on the data that they have. It may not be the ultimate ideal solution, but they've got to make a solution based on the data that we have. So you will not find in any of our online programs multiple choice questionnaires. Okay? I have a pet hate, personally, of multiple choice questionnaires. So should Paul do A or B or C? That's okay if you're 10 years old. That's okay if it's on the back page of a Sunday magazine. I'm less convinced that it's okay in the world of adult learning. But feel free to shoot me down on that in the question and answers. Number 3, change the channel. Sometimes I've seen digital learning which pretty much amounts to putting a camera in the back of a classroom, a little bit like we're doing now, having the camera following somebody in front. Maybe you'll just about make out the slides from the back, and we call that digital learning. That's not digital learning. Okay, if you go to a rugby match, I'm a rugby fan. I come originally from Ireland. I love going to watch rugby and when Ireland are playing and systematically winning, as they often do. Okay, when I go and watch a rugby match and pay money to sit in the stadium of 60,000 other people, I'm not going for the view. Okay, I'm going for the atmosphere. I'm going for the fun. I'm going for the emotional connection. I'm going for a whole range of reasons. But what I can actually see of the match is actually pretty limited. I'm probably watching a bit on screen and a bit live. When I'm watching it at home, that's not what I want. I don't want to see a small, tiny little pitch. I want camera angles of rugby boots. I want people crying in the crowd. I want to see somebody wiping sweat off their cheek, whatever it might be. The BBC have understood what makes this an engaging television experience. It's different from putting a camera in the stadium and letting it roll. So make sure you use the right channel for the right audience. Don't try and repackage Classroom. It doesn't normally work. Respect the Holy Trinity of virtual learning. What does that mean? Design, production, delivery. Those 3 have to go together. Okay, so people who are designing, that we mentioned up front, backwards learning design, what are my objectives, how am I going to measure them, create my content. Design's got to be really clear. That design needs to inform the production. If production go ahead and make videos without linking with design, we're going to get nice videos. We'll probably get good-looking videos, but we may not get videos that trigger a learning response. We just get nice videos. Same for delivery. The coaches who are giving feedback, they may still give great feedback to participants, and the participants will have a nice debrief of their 360 or whatever it might be, but if it's not linked with the learning objective, it's not linked with what we're trying to do, it will have been a nice intervention, but it won't have been a targeted intervention. Design, production, delivery have to go hand in hand. Number 5, and you've mentioned this already, make sure the content is fresh and easy to digest. Okay? Telling stories that are timeless stories like this are fine, but pulling out the case study of GE did this 100 years ago or somebody else did this 100 years ago, that's nice, but it's not working. Fresh means instant, current, and give people little chunks. Don't get them to watch a 50-minute video, they're not going to do it, but do get them to watch small little videos. Really important, number 6, is relevance. Particularly if I'm a busy executive. This is a little bit like the principle of Weight Watchers. Okay? I have never been on Weight Watchers myself. I probably should. But here's what happens in Weight Watchers. You go through a week of misery. You eat lettuce. You don't get to eat chocolate. You don't get to drink beer. You have a pretty miserable time from Monday to Friday. On Saturday, you turn up for your weight watching session and you get onto the scales in front of a group of people and you say, wow, I've lost half a kilo or whatever it is that you've lost. All of a sudden, the misery of the last 5 days evaporates because you've just seen why you've done it. Here's the connection. Wow, this has served a meaningful purpose. Really important on a learning journey that at the end of every week, the end of every segment, the person can say, yeah, I can apply this in my business. This is making sense for me right now, this week. And finally, make sure that the people who are giving feedback know what they're talking about. That's super important as well. Sometimes, from a peer learning point of view and a peer feedback point of view, it can be a bit of hit and miss. Sometimes, if the program's well designed, peer learning can be fabulous. Sometimes, if the program's not well designed, peer learning is like the blind leading the blind. Let me, who don't really know what I'm talking about, give you feedback on something that I don't really understand, and then we think that's been a good learning engagement. That's often not the case. So try to make sure that your feedback loop is populated by people who actually know what they're talking about. That's also increased the chances that people will actually listen to what they say. So I'm going to stop there. I think we've got about 5 minutes for questions and answers. Yeah, 5? 3 minutes for questions and answers. Okay, any questions?
How do you emulate the experience that we've had with your facilitation in this session in a digital scenario?
So I think the question was, how do we analyze? Emulate. So I didn't get the question, so let's say the question again then.
How do you emulate that experience we had with your facilitation in a digital scenario?
Okay, so the coaches that we use in our face-to-face interaction are exactly the same coaches that we use in the digital interaction. Whether you're doing the coaching face-to-face or over the phone or a Skype or whatever it doesn't matter. It's the technique of being able to understand the people, understand where they're coming from, make an emotional connection, ask smart questions, and then give meaningful feedback. Whether that's face-to-face or digital, it's the same skill set that you need. Okay? One more question, so we'll go for you because I snapped you before.
How do you measure if a piece of learning content, meets these metrics and to what extent?
So we have, I guess, what you might call traditional measurement techniques. So people fill in a self-reported questionnaire, et cetera, but we deploy other tools as well. We use 360. We use something that's called Net Promoter Score, where we say, how likely would you be to recommend this? We get feedback from your peers. We get feedback from your boss. We get feedback from your direct reports. And where possible, we try to measure quantitative things as well. So if you're on the negotiation program or the finance program or the pricing program, and one of your clear objectives was to be able to increase your prices by 3% at the end of this program, then we go back and measure that 3 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later, and see whether that's actually been the case. Okay, I think we're going to get in trouble. We are in trouble already, so we're in trouble already. Thank you very much for your time. If you want to grab me for questions at the end, you're very welcome. Thank you.